Ladies and gentlemen, imagine it. Picture a lone general sitting atop a city gate, playing a lute with the gates wide open, while an army of 150,000 bloodthirsty soldiers waits just outside. This is the moment a paper tiger changed the course of the world. The year is 228 AD, during the chaotic and, frankly, bloody era of the Three Kingdoms in China. The setting is the small, vulnerable city of Xicheng. Inside, you see, the legendary strategist Zhuge Liang finds himself caught in a commander's ultimate nightmare. His main army is miles away, depleted and completely out of position. His defenses non-existent. And on the horizon, the massive dust cloud of an elite invasion force is rising, signaling a fast-approaching doom. Sima Yi, a commander known for his cold, calculated precision, leads 150,000 battle-hardened veterans of the Wei state. They are a disciplined war machine, a tidal wave of steel and horsehair moving toward a city that should, by all military rights, be a tomb. To any rational observer, the slaughter was a foregone conclusion. But instead of frantic preparations or a desperate suicidal retreat, Zhuge Liang does something that defies every law of military logic. He orders the city gates to be thrown wide. He instructs a few soldiers, disguised as civilians, to calmly sweep the dusty streets as if it were just another lazy, peaceful afternoon. And then, in an act of supreme audacity, he climbs to the very top of the gate tower. He lights a stick of incense, he sits, and he begins to play his lute. As Sima Yi's vanguard reaches the city, they stop dead in their tracks. There is no rain of arrows, no roar of a defending garrison. There is only the haunting, melodic strain of a stringed instrument drifting over the ramparts, cutting through the silence of the valley. Why would a commander invite certain death? I mean, why look so incredibly weak when your life depends on a show of strength? The answer, you see, lies in the battlefield's most dangerous weapon, the enemy's own arrogance and his fear of the unknown. Sima Yi looked at those open gates and did not see an easy victory. He saw a trap. He knew Zhuge Liang was a genius who never took unnecessary risks. Therefore, in his mind, this couldn't be a mistake. It had to be a masterstroke, an ambush so grand and so lethal that even 150,000 men would be swallowed whole. This was the birth of the empty fort strategy, the ultimate paper tiger maneuver. By appearing completely defenseless, Zhuge Liang turned his greatest weakness into a psychological fortress. He bet his life on the fact that a brilliant man would never believe a rival could be so blatantly vulnerable. Ladies and gentlemen, in the high-stakes theater of the battlefield, your most lethal enemy isn't the sword across from you. It is your own certainty. Conventional military wisdom dictates that power is a projection of strength, that the side with the most steel, the thickest armor, and the loudest roar wins the day. From the earliest Bronze Age skirmishes to the mechanized slaughter of the modern era, we have been conditioned, brainwashed really, to believe that victory is just a mathematical equation of resources. We are taught to fear the paper tiger, the regime that looks formidable on a map, but, lacks the marrow and bone to actually sustain a fight. But the archives of history's greatest conquerors tell a far more chilling story. They reveal that the most dangerous weapon a commander can wield isn't a secret legion or a superior blade. It is the illusion of his own collapse. You see, the human brain is hardwired to seek patterns, and in the heat of combat, a general's mind is just desperate for a sign of the end. When an opponent appears fractured, when their lines seem to buckle and their banners dip in the mud, a psychological trap begins to close. We call this the obvious victory. It is the moment, the precise second, when a commander stops thinking tactically and starts thinking about his place in the history books. Adrenaline replaces caution. The pursuit of glory blinds the eye to the very ground he stands on. Empire after empire has been lured into ruin because they fell for the bait of a weak enemy. They saw a retreating force and called it a rout. They saw an empty fortress and called it a surrender. They failed to realize that the most terrifying predator isn't the one baring its teeth, it's the one pretending to be the prey. Commanders throughout the ages have exploited these psychological blind spots with surgical precision. They understood that if you give an arrogant man a path to an easy triumph, he will run down it until he finds himself surrounded by shadows. It is a game of mirrors where the perceived weakness is actually a coiled spring waiting for the perfect moment to release. But how does a commander actually engineer such a massive deception without their own troops breaking under the pressure? Because as we are about to see, the line between looking like a paper tiger and actually becoming one is razor thin, and one specific general in the 13th century was about to prove that a fake retreat could be more deadly than a frontal assault. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the deadliest theater of the mind. You see, in the brutal logic of the battlefield, the most dangerous predator isn't the one showing its teeth. No, it is the one lying in the dirt, seemingly gasping its last breath. This is the art of the reverse gambit. Now, while the traditional paper tiger is about a weak force pretending to be strong to deter an attack, the reverse paper tiger, well, it is far more sinister. It is a high-stakes cycle. To pull this off, right, a commander must master a three-step trap that begins with the bait. Imagine a vanguard that appears to shatter at the first scent of gunpowder or the first sight of steel. Standards are dropped, soldiers turn their backs, and the air is filled with the simulated screams of a routed army. To the opposing general watching from the high ground, it looks like a total collapse. I mean, it looks like an easy win. This leads directly into step 2, the ego trap. This is the most delicate moment of the maneuver. You are allowing the enemy to taste a fake victory. As they see your men fleeing, a surge of adrenaline and arrogance takes over. Arrogance, ladies and gentlemen, is a powerful intoxicant. It clouds the judgment of even the most seasoned veterans. They abandon their defensive formations, they break their ranks to pursue the cowards, and they throw tactical discipline into the wind. They aren't just attacking anymore, they are overextending. They are sprinting headlong into a void. Then comes step 3, the envelopment. This is the closing of the iron fist. The fleeing troops suddenly stop. They pivot. Their faces, once twisted in mock terror, are now cold and resolute. From the hidden tree lines or behind the crests of nearby hills, fresh reserves emerge. The hunter becomes the hunted, as the enemy is caught in a pocket of their own making. The ominous weakness they chased was nothing more than the open jaws of a trap. Could this be the secret key to every lopsided victory in history? From the plains of Cannae to the frozen forests of the Eastern Front, the reverse gambit has ended empires. But, you see, there is a terrifying catch. For this to work, your own soldiers must be disciplined enough to pretend to be cowards without actually becoming them. Because as we are about to see, when a fake retreat goes wrong, it doesn't just lead to a loss, it leads to a massacre. But even that risk pales in comparison to what happens when two masters of deception meet on the same field. What happens when both sides are playing dead? To find the absolute peak of this lethal deception, ladies and gentlemen, we must travel back to the scorching plains of southern Italy in 216 BC. Here, at the Battle of Cannae, the Carthaginian general Hannibal Barca was about to turn the art of looking weak into a death sentence for the greatest power the world had ever seen. Hannibal stood outnumbered, facing a Roman force of 80,000 men, a wall of iron and muscle, determined to crush him underfoot. But you see, Hannibal didn't meet them with a wall of his own. He met them with a curve. He placed his weakest, most expendable troops in the center, bulging his line outward toward the Romans like a flexed bow. As the Roman legions charged, they hit that center with the force of a tidal wave, and then something happened that every Roman soldier had dreamed of. The Carthaginian line began to crumble. It began to give way. The Romans, fueled by the intoxicating adrenaline of a victory they thought they had already earned, surged forward. They pushed deeper and deeper into the Carthaginian heart, screaming in triumph as they sensed a total collapse. But, ladies and gentlemen, they weren't breaking the line. They were walking into a throat.
Hannibal's center wasn't retreating out of fear, It was retreating by design, slowly drawing the Romans into a tightening pocket. Firmly, while the Roman mass was congested, packed so tightly in the center that the men could barely swing their swords, Hannibal's elite African heavy infantry, fresh and untouched on the flanks, swung inward. At the same moment, his cavalry shattered the Roman rear, slamming the door shut. In a heartbeat, the shattered line became a circle of steel. Imagine the terror of that realization. 50,000 Roman soldiers realized at the exact same moment that the ground beneath their boots had turned into a graveyard. They were packed so close together they were literally crushed to death by the weight of their own comrades before a blade even touched them. It was a meat grinder of tactical genius, the most perfect double envelopment in the history of human conflict. Hannibal had won by appearing to lose. He had turned the Romans' own momentum against them, proving that in the theater of war, the most dangerous thing you can face is a retreating enemy. But even a masterstroke like Cannae leaves behind a blueprint that others will try to follow. And as we are about to see, trying to replicate
Ladies and gentlemen, we have unmasked the art of the feigned retreat, but there are so many more layers to this grand game of strategy. Subscribe to Global War Insights and join us as we continue to peel back the curtain on the tactical brilliance that defined our world. And I want to hear from you. In your study of the great campaigns, what do you believe is the most masterful trap in military history? Let us know in the comments below. Stay tuned as the next chapter of our deep dive begins now.